So as I was saying before the last video cut off, that rate of behavior will be, or rate of occurrences will be determined through the formula of dividing the number of occurrences that occurred during the session by the total number of minutes in the session. So if there were 60 occurrences of the behavior and the session was 30 minutes long, then 60 divided by 30, that's 2 occurrences of the behavior per minute. So the implementation procedures. The intervention procedures are that students will be given a multiple stimulus without replacement to determine which of multiple items will be most effective in reinforcing desired behavior for each individual student. This will be done each day prior to the beginning of the 30-minute session, or each intervention day, I should say, each day during the 2 intervention phases. During both intervention phases, each student will trade his or her tokens for his or her most desired reinforcer, as determined by the multiple stimulus without replacement. During the baseline and withdrawal of intervention phases, each student will be able to trade his or her tokens for the reinforcer that the teacher had been using prior to the intervention and prior to the multiple stimulus without replacement. Data collection procedures. Data will be collected by 2 observers at the same time each day, 11 o'clock to 11:30 throughout all phases. Frequency data will be used to measure occurrences of desired behavior as well as occurrences of interfering behavior. Data collection will occur 5 times for each phase of the study. Testing procedures will be followed during all phases of this study. So for validity and reliability, Inter-Observer Agreement, or IOA. 2 observers will collect data during a 30-minute session for 40% of sessions per phase, 2 out of 5 days in each phase. So 2 out of 5, 40%. IOA will be calculated at the conclusion of those sessions to ensure that data is being collected consistently and accurately. This will also help to detect and subsequently correct any observer drift that might occur. Fidelity of treatment. During both intervention phases, the researchers will observe the intervention being conducted. Fidelity of treatment will be observed during 40% of sessions during each intervention phase. This will ensure that staff members are implementing the intervention plan, are following the intervention plan exactly as it is written. So making sure that the staff members who are doing the intervention plan, implementing the intervention plan, are following it to the letter, because that's important for maintaining the fidelity of the treatment. Social validity. Staff members and parents will complete a survey at the end of the study to determine their thoughts on the importance of this study. So this is the proposed data analysis plan. Data will be collected during each phase of the study and be plotted as points on a line graph. There'll be dividers between each phase, and so there'll be like a line graph for phase 1, then a divider, then plots pointed and a line connecting them for phase 2 and phase 3 and phase 4. And the data for each phase will be analyzed for level, or the increase or decrease in frequency of a given behavior when the intervention is implemented, trend, or change in the slope of the line, upward, meaning if this change of the slope of the line is going upwards, then that means that there's an increase in the frequency of the behavior. If the change in the slope of the line is going downwards, then that means that there's a decrease in the frequency of behavior, and if it's flat, that means that there's no change in the frequency of the behavior. And we're also going to analyze in trends for the magnitude of the change. So a steep slope, if the slope of the line changes by a lot and just goes straight up, then that means that the magnitude of the behavior change is a lot. Or if the slope goes straight down in a steep slope, that means the magnitude of the change of behavior is still very high. If the slope goes up just a little or the slope goes down just a little, then that means that the magnitude of change for the behavior is actually very low. Also, it'll be analyzed for variability. How spread out the data is in each phase will also be analyzed. Immediacy of change, how quickly the behavior changes after the beginning of a new phase. So if the behavior changes right away as soon as a new phase begins, so baseline data, the behavior is here, and the desired behavior is here. And then all of a sudden, as soon as the intervention is implemented, the behavior just goes straight up. Then that means the behavior changed quickly. That means that the intervention is most likely what's responsible for the change in the behavior. And if it happens again during the second implementation of the intervention, then that shows through replication that that is what is changing the behavior, that the intervention is what's changing the behavior. Data overlap will also be analyzed for. Data overlap in each phase will also be analyzed. So a little bit of a discussion about quality indicators. The following quality indicators for a single subject design are met by our research proposal. Description of participants and setting. Detailed descriptions of participants, method of selecting participants, and setting are given to facilitate replication of this study. Dependent and independent variables. Operational definitions are given for each dependent variable to facilitate replication. The dependent variable is also measured repeatedly over time. Detailed descriptions are given for independent variables, and those independent variables are controlled by the examiner. Baseline. Detailed description of the baseline phase facilitates replication. Discussion of quality indicators continued. All right. Internal validity. The ABAB design demonstrates prediction, verification, and replication. If it were just AB, that would only demonstrate prediction. If it were ABA, that would only demonstrate prediction and verification. But ABAB demonstrates prediction, verification, and replication. So this will show that nothing other than the independent variable is responsible for the change in behavior. The experimental design controls for common threats to internal validity. All right, now for external validity. The changes in the dependent variable are demonstrated across participants, settings, and materials. Social validity. The dependent variable is socially important. The magnitude of change in the dependent variable is socially important. Staff training and staff implementation of the independent variable is easy for researchers and staff members to do. Implementation of the dependent variable is also cost effective. So just what has been learned through the mini project. We've learned the nature of the single subject design and methods for conducting it, how to control a single subject design in order to ensure that nothing other than the independent variable is influencing the dependent variable, and we learned how to conduct research in an educational setting. These are the references that we used for making the mini project, and that's it.